led, of course, to me coming back to Ireland and delving into the Irish folklore and mythology. Legend Seekers was a project which was designed to stimulate our youth, to get them from behind the PlayStations and the Xboxes and back into the countryside. And what we wanted to do was to show them that there possibly is something within our landscape that still sings to us if we are able to listen. If we took ourselves away from the distraction which is imposed on human society, which locks us quite permanently into the left-hand hemisphere of the brain, that cognitive center, that, for instance, cell phones. We're always concentrating on cell phones. We're always fixated with that. Computer games, computers. Modern technology really serves to keep us locked in the left-hand hemisphere. What we wanted to do was try and tantalize the right-hand hemisphere. Let them see that there was an adventure waiting outside there that wasn't virtual reality. It was real. But what we wanted to see was, is there anything of the ancient stories that was told to us? Is there anything there that still lingered and still manipulated the human if they come in contact with it? Now, this led to an investigation on an island in Donegal in the northern part of Ireland. This place is known as Saints Island, and it has a long history. It has a history which predates Christianity. This is an island where you went to and you challenged yourself. This is a place where you went to purge your physical and your spiritual, and it challenged you to the point of death, according to the legends. Now, we have often heard legends within the Legend Seeker project, and many of these, as you can understand, you will take in. You go, oh well, yeah, I've heard that all before. But this was different. This one caught us completely unawares. This was something that had such an impact with us, and we only stayed one night. It left us with such an impact that it was strong enough to lift me off the paradigm of the railway tracks that I was on, and suddenly introduced me to a broader spectrum of research that has really brought me to where I am today. Now, on the island of the dead, we were told there was nothing there. The church still owned it, and in fact, what we discovered is that in 1497, the church actually shut it down. They dismantled it, and they moved the whole lot to another island on the same lake, of which you can still visit today. Now, when we went to the church and we said we're doing a piece on the legend, they said, well, there's nothing there. And we said, well, we've got maps that are showing from the 16th century and before that there are ruins here. No, there's nothing there. You won't find anything. And we ended up going, and we did find it. We found everything that was mentioned in those maps. But what we discovered was that on the maps, one part of the island there's almost a line drawn through the middle of it. And on the eastern side, or sorry, the western side, it is lush fern. Many times it was over our heads, while in the other side, the east, was rush. It was rocks. It was nasty, a nasty place to be. But on the maps, the fern side was known as the side of the angels, where the other side was known as the side of the demons. People were coming from the medieval period right across Europe to come here to purge their souls within Christianity, within the idea that this was a place that you prepared yourself within purgatory. And that's why it became known as St. Patrick's Purgatory. St. Patrick being the patron saint of Ireland. But what we discovered is that there was something that was so wrong on that island that it horrified me. It scared me beyond anything I had ever experienced before. And what I got to see was a doorway, a place that within the ancient manuscripts they whisper about. These places, these films, where you can cross from one place to another, but also a place that they can cross to here. And that's what we were introduced to. That suddenly the legend became real. And what we found is that these passage chambers was the key within the island. You see, the passage chamber itself was the fundamental casing, if you like, of the lock mechanism to open to the world of the gods. These were built in Ireland 3,500 BC. And the people, strangely enough, who built them, we'll come back to shortly. As you enter these passage chambers, and passageway to where exactly? The clue's in the word. On the left-hand side, you'll enter a long passage, stone passage, and you'll be bowed. You'll be on your hands and knees as you enter these passages, for the most part. There are a few large ones. And then you will enter a circular area when you come to the end of the shaft. And within the circular area, you will also find 3 sub-areas. And that in itself was very interesting, because above these areas was a domed ceiling. And the domed ceiling was very prevalent. The design of these were exceptionally specific. Now, this is a portrait, a carving, a replica of one of the oldest depictions of a Celtic cross in Ireland. Now, if you look at these passage chambers from a bird's eye view, they look like a Celtic cross. The thing was, when you put people in the 3 points, as you see in the Celtic cross, and you produce a specific frequency, and we know what those frequencies are now, when you do that, you rap on the door. You weaken the film. And the key here is finding the frequency. And as you can see from this depiction in the 8th century, which is found in a carving on a monastery down in County Offaly, you will see the mouths of the 3 people open. The center of the cross is exceptionally important. In all Neolithic art, the center is always important, because that's where it emanates from. Creates the spiral, and from the spiral opens out, and you will see the serpents who consume the people. The serpents, of course, on an island that didn't have serpents. But that is not the case. These places, these ancient passage chambers, they were resonance chambers. And I had to smile to myself when I seen Michael Tellinger's work there before about circles and the stones that emanate these frequencies. And yet here, on our very doorsteps, we have those circles. I was going to say someone's brought their pet. But here we have them. And not only that, but these doorways, these films, were guarded by giant reptiles, giant serpents, that still within Ireland still haunt a lot of the landscapes today. You will still find a lot of the townland names, or names of lakes in particular, that will be associated with these creatures. And these creatures, by the way, have been seen right up until the 1960s along the west coast. So what we find is that the cross, this cross was not only a representation of the sun, it was a timepiece. It was a handover period of the gods. These doorways to the world of the gods were guarded by giant serpent. And it was a place that man was not meant to be. You were not meant to go there uninvited. What happened with us on the island of the dead is that we were uninvited. And that's probably why the reaction we got whenever we saw what we saw.